Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing Capcom Generations number 4 for the Sega Saturn. Now, there's a lot of running, there's a lot of gunning. How does it all fare? Well, that compilation is much like these Skittles. Taste of rainbow, you know? What does that even mean? I don't know. I gotta stop doing these things baked. Capcom Generations 4 contains 3 games, Commando, Mercs, and Gunsmoke. I played these games stone cold sober and it didn't help. They're not bad games by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of the time I can attribute my shit playing to the fact that I'm into my 4th heavily poured bourbon for the night when I'm recording them. I think of them both as a bit harmless fun and more of an example of the game rather than a reflection of my prowess as a gamer, which by the way, there's no delusions, there is none. But these games were punishing to say the least. I mean, what the fuck is this anyway? Contra? Like Capcom Generations 1, 2, 3, and 5, this was released on the PlayStation and the Saturn in 1998, with the PlayStation 2 getting a more definitive version several years later. What you have to understand here is the 5-year difference between Commando, Gunsmoke, and Mercs. Commando and Gunsmoke were originally released in 1985, and Mercs was sometime in 1990, and the difference between them is pretty substantial. Alright, let's get to it. The presentation of the menu is pretty standard. If you have any other Capcom Generations in your collection, it's the same. You have an intro video, which is nothing to write home about, but it's nothing terrible either. Each collection has a colour theme to it, and this time we have a green title screen. It doesn't really dive deep or give us any sort of relevancy to each game in the collection, which would be cool if it did. The options are also standard, although Commando has 2 difficulties, easy or hard with a 2-star system, as opposed to the 4 or 8-star system for the other Capcom games. The in-game presentation is your typical 80s arcade game, with your score and health taking their usual spot and everything's in its right calculated place. The graphics in terms of the ports themselves are top notch. However you remember this back in the day is how the Saturn emulates it. The graphics themselves are pretty great for their time and still capture that fun. I don't think it really misses a beat. I will add that how I capture this game and how it looks on my CRT is quite different. The capture tries to smooth out the look, but in doing so gives us this real washed out look which is simply not there on the TV. Graphically, the difference between Commando and Mercs is pretty substantial. More detail, bigger movement, better environments, and the feel is more. The difference in graphics between Gunsmoke and Commando, however, is not much. It's the same look to the game which worked so very well for Capcom in the past. Sound is not too bad, it's your usual beeps and boops and classic 8-bit sound. I really wish there was more to it, but there really isn't. It does capture the nostalgia of the titles, which absolutely adds to the overall experience. Sound effects are alright. The gameplay needs to be broken up, but only in a comparative sort of way, as Mercs is the sequel to Commando. As a blanket statement, all 3 games are hard as I mentioned before. The thing here is that they're all run and guns, which works in really nicely. If you were spending cash on this game in the arcades, the game doesn't go easy on you. I mean, it does to begin with, but the one thing that really makes Commando that next level in difficulty is running into your opponents also kills you, as well as the bullets. With 5 years difference, you would expect there to be some substantial upgrades to Commando in Mercs, but sadly, there really isn't in this department. The one function I wanted to be there, which doesn't seem to be, is the ability to roll and or jump out of the way like I could in Contra and continue to shoot. You had to balance it and I didn't think it helped the flow of the gameplay. At least with Commando you could run and shoot at the same time without it affecting your chances of being shot too often. I even checked the button config in case it wasn't configured, but there were no options for it. Gunsmoke has a really unique control layout with the A button shooting left, B shooting in front, and C shooting to the right, and I thought that was really excellent. It didn't prohibit the game like you think it would, and it was interesting in a positive way. The controls were nice and tight, like that third dom you put on in vain while doing someone nasty. All of that being said, they're still fun, and even 1 or 2 people have mentioned these games are their favourite in the series, which just goes to show you that difficult games can be punishing, still be engaging, and the most important factor, fun. All 3 games have replayability in the sense that they're not only fantastic games, but multiplayer on all 3, and trying to better yourself with the emphasis on score. To dismiss modern gaming and say that they don't do it is incorrect. Instead of an overall score, it might be collecting all the special rings in Sonic, or collecting all the special whatever Mario collects these days, porno mags, I don't know, or frags in the first person shooters, or better times in races, etc, etc. Would I recommend this collection? Yes, I will, because all 3 games are really good, and even though Mercs was slightly disappointing in terms of gameplay with a single element missing, it's still a pretty fun game. There is plenty here, even though I would have liked to have seen more, but asking for more games is like saying that you had a great meal, except you wanted more. Hey, we all wanted more, I'm just happy with what we have.